Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Perspective. And once again, I'm so blessed. I have the most amazing guests on my show. And after the show, when they walk away, I kind of sit back, ponder and think about the things that were discussed. And I don't leave the studios, not a day in my life, without having learned something new. So my life is all the more richer for the amazing guests that we feature here on Perspective. Once again, I'm fortunate in introducing an amazing lady. She's authored 8 books and she's somewhat of a specialist regarding family communications. So that's what we're going to concentrate on today, family communications. And I said to her off air that, you know, I'm in the media space and yet I battle with family communication, communication with certain members of our family, and I kind of wonder what are the blocks, the stumbling blocks regarding the difficulty in breaking through. But we're going to uncover that and so much more on the show this morning. Please stay with us. My amazing guest is none other than Dr. Victorine Mbong. She's just also been conferred with a doctorate. But we're not talking about that today. We'll save that for another time. So join me in welcoming this amazing woman to my show. Very good morning. Welcome.
Good morning and welcome to you and your audience, Auntie Julie.
Many congratulations on receiving your doctorate, and you must be so proud, and your family must be so proud of you.
We are.
We're not going to discuss the doctorate today, but can you tell us what was the thesis on it?
My thesis is on communication, family communication.
Ah, okay, so exactly what we're going to talk about.
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
More or less.
You have had an amazing journey from the time you were a young girl. You've come to South Africa, but I think we kind of get groomed in a certain way in our lives, and that grooming starts from a very early age. Talk to us about the early years of your life and what was, you know, the positive messages you gave to yourself to be a success and to make something of yourself.
Wow. Have I ever thought about that? No. But I think talking to you now, it's actually giving me goosebumps, Auntie Julie. The reason is because I had a very difficult but very beautiful childhood, you know, reminiscence in my years before I was 9. I lived with my mom and dad and my other siblings. And then at the age of 9, my uncle got married and I was given to my uncle as a wedding gift. So basically what happens is your uncle got given a child so he and the wife can practice how to take care of a child from that child.
Oh, wow.
So I was lucky enough to be that child that was given. It's sort of a blessing because you become the first child of that household. If you're lucky, good ways of practices are implemented on you. If you're not lucky, the reverse. So unfortunately for me, my uncle's wife left the marriage when their child. So I went into their house when they were 8 months pregnant. And she left the marriage when their child was 5 months old. So I automatically, instead of resuming the title of a wedding gift, which is a prestigious one, I automatically became a babysitter because she left the baby behind. So I think my mothering, my parenting, my leadership skills and everything started forming at that time. If you consider the fact that I was a 4th child to my parents, but the first child who stayed with my parents, then I was taken again to become a first child in this house, and I became a mother at the age of 10. Just before I was 10, I became a mother to this young girl. So I feel like those were good moments. At that time, they didn't look like, but when you look back now, I remember the times I would carry the baby behind me and go fetch water. I remember the times I would carry the baby behind me while cooking. I remember the times I wouldn't sleep at night because the baby is awake. My uncle could do nothing. It's just the way men are culturally. So all of those, I think, if I can
shaped
answer
the
your
woman
question,
sitting here.
Formed me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder about responsibility at an early age, and you talk about Probably you were in a rural setting because you carried the child on your back and you did all of that hard household work, having to fetch water, probably miles away from the house. How do you see life today for young children living in cities and possibly even in rural areas? Do you believe it's changed very much? And also, let's just inform our viewers and our listeners, you were not a born South African.
I'm not.
Right. You Cameroonian.
I'm Cameroonian. Yeah.
Right. What brought you to South Africa?
Okay, those are two questions in one, right?
Absolutely. You can answer the first part about the children of today.
I came here just after my degree. I had a degree in journalism and mass communication from the University of Boya in Cameroon, and I spent a year home working. My brother was not very happy about that. My brother sponsored me. So my childhood is very complicated. There came a time when my brother had to take over when I was 14. And he started sponsoring me. He even had to drop out of school and told himself he's going to sponsor me until I have a degree before he can study. You know, so when I had my degree, he got worried again because in Cameroon there were no jobs. There was no way of furthering my education because the English-speaking section really had no university at that time that was doing a master's, for instance. So he decided I came to South Africa where he was to study. So I came here particularly to study, and because my brother was running a company, when I got here, after my entry and everything, I got a work permit and I studied for him, then got back a study permit and studied, then got married. So that is how my life in South Africa unfolded.
The beauty about African culture is that certain family members, a sibling, invariably a sibling, would literally stop their lives to give other siblings the opportunity to make something of themselves.
Yeah.
But at some point in life, you have to pay it back.
Yeah, that's
Did
true.
you pay it back?
I wouldn't say I paid it back, but I would say I also did help a few of my siblings and people who are not like my own siblings' children and my uncle's children. You know, I did that, not like pay back my brother, because I feel like actually I can't pay my brother. You have not even heard what he did for me. So it's something that can never be paid back. All what I do is that I really owe him gratitude with every word that comes out of my tongue. And I pay him allegiance for doing what he did to me in a big way that I can, but I make sure that I don't quantify it in material because I am unable to do that. Forget about inflation, just the sacrifices that he went. Let me tell you something. Within that time, my brother got married. When my brother got married, he said to me, he's not going to have a child until I'm settled. So it wasn't only a matter of him dropping out of school, it was a matter of him delaying childbirth as well for me. How do you pay that? And we are many. I come from a family of 10 children. He picked me.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of families who understand togetherness and understand that sacrifices have to be made to get a few from the family to achieve something in life. Because even if you don't pay, and we talk about paying it forward, you don't pay it forward to him, but there are other members in your family and community that you pay it forward to.
Yeah.
So God bless you for that.
Thank you.
So before all of these amazing achievements, that is what your life was all about, Victorine. And it's really about you looking at yourself and asking what and how I can make a difference. And that's what your life has been about. And any woman, any person, any human being who has managed to author 8 books, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 8 books, is really about paying it forward, is it not? Because all of those books, as diverse as they are, is sending out a message, is giving people guidance. So any book you read, it's about what you learn from that book and how you can implement it in your own life or change somebody else's life.
That's very true. I also got into authorship very early in my life. That was after my degree. So before I came here, my brother had sent me to go learn how to use the computer because we studied in a system where computers were not being used. You know, so while I was learning, the guy who was teaching me, his nickname, I think, is Monkey. uh, one of the computers had a story that had been written about this little girl and the palm wine tapper. So I read this guy's story. And a few things like you're talking about, the setting resonated with how I grew up. And immediately I started writing my own story. And I titled it the Girl Who Grew Up, you know. So I wrote that story. It's not here. I wrote that story. And when I was traveling to South Africa, I put it in a floppy disk, you know, the floppy disks that we carried in those days. And I brought it here. So when this book, my first book, Stop Complaining and Bring Back Involved Parenting, was launched, my husband actually reminded the audience, telling them that before I met her, she had a story in her. I just don't understand why the story has not been released. And I was like, oh my, so I'd always been an author, but I thought I became an author because my daughter was an author, you know?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, but some things in life happen to you that you only get reminded by, or they get triggered, then they come to mind. But that's how my writing started.
You have amazing children. I met your daughter, I think, when she was about 10 years old, or maybe a little older, and I was absolutely taken aback by this young girl or little girl, a girl in adolescence who had the mind of an adult. Hugely, hugely intelligent and an absolute bright spark. At the tender age of 7 years, she authored her own book.
Yeah.
Did that come from you influencing her, or was she born with this, you know, with this gift of storytelling?
You know, my daughter's name is Stacy Fru, right? Stacy's story is usually a very difficult one for me to trace. Like when people ask me where the talent come from, I always say to people, it's a gift that nobody can replicate, you know, and that nobody can create because we didn't see it coming at all. We did, yes, nurture her when she showed the talent, but when it came to showing it, we don't even know how it came about, apart from the story she tells. And I think she's told you the story before, where she said she was motivated by my master's degree thesis, where at my graduation, because I had a big party for it, thank goodness, and during the graduation ceremony, the party, sorry, she saw people holding this big book. So she
Can I
found
ask you
out.
to hold that thought if you don't mind? Let's go for our first ad break. We'll bring you that story in a minute or two. We do need to take our break and then we'll pick up from where we've left off. Welcome back. My guest is the amazing Dr. Victorine Mbong. She's an author and she's a coach. She's here to talk to us about all of the books she's written, and the very latest one, I think her master's thesis is on family communication, and that is something we're going to touch on, and we're going to try and focus more on that just when we get beyond the story of this amazing family. So your lovely daughter, Stacy, that's right? Stacy Fru.
Yeah.
Okay. She's at varsity now. I mean, I
studying.
met her when she was what, a little girl?
Then, like you said, yeah.
Uh-huh.
She's studying mechanical engineering at
Okay.
university. Yeah.
Has she written any further books?
Her last release, I think, was 2 years ago, Middleburg East. She's got a full-fledged novel. I think it's 182 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So she had to focus on metric, and after metric, she's now at varsity. She's seeing flames, so she can't write.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was quite a little girl, a fiery girl with so much of energy and a zest for life,
Yeah.
is what I can say. And I just hope that she goes on to the best years of her life going forward.
Thank you.
Talk to us about family communications, your thesis, your master's, and all the different books that you had written. When did you write your first book? What was the motivation to write the book? And what was it all about?
I love telling the story of these books. So let me start there because the journey begins here into the PhD program. Anyway, in 2010, I had 3 children. And my husband had graduated from his PhD at the age of, in 2019. The deal we had when we met was I was studying for an MBA and he was studying for an honors. He had just finished his honors, so he started a master's program. And then I couldn't study for an MBA, being a mother, and he's studying. So I said to him, we have to start making a family. And I don't want to one day earn above you, because with an MBA, I'm definitely going to earn more. And with your own general education, you will not earn more. So you further your studies, I'm going to drop off, I'm going to have children. And when you complete your studies, I'm going to go back to school. So I dropped off, had my children. I had 3 by 2009 when he had his PhD. So he went to Wits, he took me and went to Wits University and got admission for me and said, you have to go back to school. I couldn't go back to the MBA that I didn't finish. So I went back to Wits and I did an honors in 2010. My honors was good, it was successful, but the last day I submitted, I fainted. Yes, I got home, drove home, fainted. And the reason for that is because the honors final exam at Wits University is grading. So they give you take-home exam, or they gave us, I don't know if it's still the procedure now. They give you take-home exams, you write it, and you submit by midnight of a certain day. So for those 2 days that I was writing, I didn't eat or drink.
Oh.
I focused on that. As a mother, you can't afford to repeat, to fail. And when I submitted that midnight, I submitted while at Wits University Library, drove home, and slept. So when I slept, I got up at 10 o'clock. So that was dehydration for 3 straight days. And then I fainted. You won't believe it. 2011, I had the 4th child. And then 2012, that child was 4.5 months. I went back to study for my master's. That night of my master's, when I received the letter of admission, was the biggest regretful life I ever had in marriage.
Why?
When I picked up the letter, when I read the letter, I read the letter, I dropped it, and I reminisced. I thought of that night when I fainted. And I asked myself if I want to die and leave my 4 children. Because for me, this was a journey that didn't worth what I would leave behind. I was very bitter because I had to walk past to go close the windows. I read it in the bedroom. I had to walk past to go close windows to check if windows are closed. It was a Friday night. I'm sorry, I get emotional. It was a Friday night. My kids had to go to an event on Saturday. So I'm thinking to myself, I still have to do all these things with 4 children, and I'm bringing myself to study. But there was that urge, you know, that urge of something, of a vacuum that you want to fill. So as I walked past to go close the windows, I saw my husband watching TV. I even got more bitter because I had come back from work. I had picked the children from school. I had made sure they ate dinner, which I had cooked. I had put them in bed one by one. I had just read that letter. I was supposed to jump in bed, but now I need to go to the kitchen, close the windows, prepare lunchbox for the next day because we're leaving early to go to a school that was 40 minutes away in the south of Joburg. So I was really bitter, and I wondered why men have to have it all. And then I thought of the days he studied and how I pampered him. And I thought to myself, really, I'm going to go through this again. And mind you, me fainting that day, when I said I was focused on book, I did not drop my kids in school. I did not pick them up. I did not give them food. You understand? So it really made me bitter. And I went into my bedroom. I opened my laptop and I started writing a book. And I said, I'm going to write a book to tell every young girl to make sure they study to their satisfaction before they get married. If they
And
want
is
to be
that
happy.
the book? Is that what it's about?
This is not the book, and this is not what it's about. Because when I started writing the book, I just started, the thought of not liking being a wife and not liking being a mother disappeared.
But at that point, just pre-writing the book, you probably were very overwhelmed, and that's why you had all of those negative thoughts.
Yes.
When did all that negativity leave you for you to pick up the pieces and move forward again?
I think I didn't know when exactly, but I'll tell you for sure that by the time I was in my 2nd month of studies, I just wanted to study.
You just wanted to continue.
Yes, and by the time I concluded my introduction to this book, I didn't have anything else to write apart from this short bitterness that I've told you. Everything about marriage was happy. I was happy. I was enjoying it. Everything about parenting, particularly, I had so much to write about parenting, so much to write that everything else just disappeared. And I think that is why you would hear therapists or coaches would tell you that writing is healing. It's because I healed myself and transcended to the positivity of my life even before I knew it.
So you're a coach yourself, you're an author as well. You now have realized that the writing was very therapeutic, and thus you have 8 books here on the table. We are often told by therapists when we're going through trauma is to journalize. There are certain people who find it very difficult to write. Why is that?
Because, so I'm not a therapist, by the way, I'm a coach. So from a
I'm
coach's
aware of
perspective,
that.
yes, from a coach's perspective, I would think one of the strongest reasons why people resist writing about their experiences is because they are in denial.
And I should imagine when you're journalizing as well, it's painful because
you're denying your
bringing,
pain.
You're bringing back stuff that you were hoping you'd forgotten.
Yes.
You put it away in the dark past. So the issue around family communication is complicated.
It is.
I myself find it difficult to communicate with certain family members. Why is that?
I think it's also because of the cultural aspect of respect, where in most cases people would say you don't speak anyhow, that's a colloquial, to older people or to people you don't know, or there is a certain protocol that you communicate as a family, and then this protocol gets diluted when we meet the outside world. So we come back in and we struggle how to communicate. But I just feel like the bottom line is the aspect of respect, where your kids feel like they cannot talk to you, your younger siblings feel like they cannot talk to you. You feel like you can't talk to your parents, but you feel like you can talk to your younger siblings and your kids in a certain manner, but because they also reject that manner or resist accepting you talk to them like that, you then refrain. So basically, it's the aspect of respect that has diluted effective communication, I would say.
We're going to continue this right after. And that's what we're going to try and focus on in the next 2 segments, effective communication, because our guest, Victorine, Dr. Victorine, has actually done a master's on family communication. So please stay with us. We're really going to hone in on that subject. Welcome back. I'm talking to Dr. Victorine Mbong. She's an author and a coach. We're going to talk a little bit about family communication, and then we're also going to talk about coaching, how that plays a role in bringing families together. Victorine, you said earlier on, due to the respect element and different, different communities, we would set different standards regarding how we communicate with people. If there's a stumbling block regarding our conversation or connecting with people, would you suggest people go for coaching?
I think that before you go for coaching, one of the most important things is to try and work it out as a family, because a coach will never get through you if you're not ready, right? And a coach will never get through you if you've not had an understanding. So basically, in family communication, there are many reasons why people, like I said, respect is one of the many reasons why people don't talk. But remember that in my culture, particularly the African perspective, there are issues of boundaries. There are issues of the things you can talk about and the things you cannot talk about. And when we are talking about communication, we don't just mean telling your parents or your child about your day. We don't just mean telling somebody about, we don't mean gossip. You understand? We mean talking about true pain. Another thing is that people are in a lot of denial because of the diversity, again, of feelings, but also because of myths about our culture. So there is a type of pain that I would go through as a child, and my mother didn't suffer that pain as a child and wouldn't understand. taking us back to the question you had asked earlier about me desiring or differentiating the time I grew up and now. Family communication would not do my children any good if I do not understand that I'm raising my children today, if I keep bringing back the past. And it will not do my children any good if they keep wanting to know my past and not understand the me of today. So there's always that struggle that people have to do with letting go and grabbing on. So change is another thing. Is your family a dynamic family? Is your family receptive to change? If your family is not receptive to change, again, a coach will not help you. But in a situation where you have explored the various avenues that are there, I would then say to you, look for a coach. But when you're looking for a coach, look for a family communication coach. Because another mistake that people do again, when they hear the title coach, they just go to any coach and they say, I've got a family problems. Majority of us, we want money. Professionals. We are professionals because we want to work. So if you come with something that it's not my specialty, so for instance, I revolve around family. If you come for me to coach you on business, I'm able to coach you because I've been a businesswoman for 19 years, right? I'm able to coach you. But let's imagine that you want me to coach you on policy development. I can't do that. But there are some of us coaches who would take up that assignment. So it's a discretion of the family now to look for a specific coach and then approach that coach. But before going to the coach, are they ready to let go? Because again, what I have found when I coach families is that when I keep the children, mostly adolescents from 10 years, I coach mostly from 10 years. When I keep the children in a separate room, they talk differently about their parents than when I have them with their parents. And it tells you that the family has not gone through that, they have not gone through that barrier of communication in their families. If they have transcended that barrier, then the child is able to talk about the parent in the way that they can. But because also it's impossible, and I'll tell you this with certainty, that is practically impossible for all these barriers to be thrashed. It is the reason why coaches exist.
Is there anything like the perfect family, or are all families troubled with particular types of problems unique to their own particular circumstances?
Auntie Joe, there is perfect families at perfect times, and there's troubled families at troubled times. Families go through phases. There are phases when the family is really good, really perfect, really enjoyable, and there are times when the family is troubled, really, really troubled, and very troubled, So it's you, the family members, to identify what phase you are going through and to seek help for that phase. Again, do not extend to a phase that is not necessary, because that is where you then invite other problems to creep in, because you are overextending whatever phase that you are in. So basically, you would see something like an illness can actually throw a family into deep, Communication again in times of illness. How do I tell my children that I have a terminal disease? One of the interviewees for my PhD actually has two adolescent children. I think they were 13 and 16 at that time, and she said to me, I've got a terminal illness, and she spoke to me about that. Remember, I was just interviewing her, and now she saw a platform to open up. She spoke to me about her illness and everything, and she broke out crying. It was telephonic interview. I wouldn't help you, right? I can't help you face to face. So I asked her, why are you crying after having spoken to me so well? And she said to me, because you have made me feel, this interview has made me feel that I now have to go home and talk to my children. And I really want to tell them that I've got this terminal illness. I really want to explain to them why I'm in and out of hospital, in and out of Johannesburg. But I have never known how to. She was grateful that the interview took place. She long told her children. She updated me after that. So sometimes you just need a platform that triggers you. But also sometimes it's not to say the family is going through difficulties, but this particular woman had a difficulty that she and her husband knew about, but the children did not know. And the children would never understand your situation. They see you as difficult. They don't understand that you have something holding you back.
If she hadn't gone back home to share this information this crucial information with the children, life-changing information. They have to now grapple with it and start working out in their own minds how they're going to go forward after her absence, after she passes on. If she didn't have that conversation, how do you think it would have impacted on those children?
You see, for me, I think the end result is usually bitterness. The end result is lack of closure. You don't want to leave your family members without closure. You want to give them closure. You want them to know why, for instance, if you had passed on, why you passed on. You want them to know that they tried to support you. Because most cases in a situation of terminal illnesses, most cases we don't get the support because we didn't disclose fully. I actually joked to one of my friends who had been sick for a very long time and kept telling us about a different kind of sickness, but confided in me. So the people around our circle knew something else, but I knew something else. And I joked with her and I said to her, sis, these people are praying for you, but they are praying for something else. That could be why you're not healing. It was like a joke, but I meant what I was saying. I said, that could be why you're not healing. Because what are they asking God? They're telling God to heal your toe. Meanwhile, your tongue is sore. So God is going to focus on your toe and ignore your tongue. So basically, that is what family members do. They intercede and they help you for something that is not what you're going through. So now when you passed on, for instance, and they now find out why, they hardly get closure and they hardly forgive the dead person.
I'm thinking about sharing information with adolescents or young teenagers. Let's assume the mother or the father is suffering from a terminal illness and they don't share with the family because their mindset is, I don't want to burden my children.
Yes.
Because if I share this information now, there's no timeline to when I'm going to die.
Yes.
I may die in 5 years' time or I might die in 5 months' time. But if it's 5 years, I'm putting my children through all of that anguish. It's going to sit with them for 5 years. How do you respond to something like that?
I respond to share and share bit by bit and share in stages and share age appropriately. So let's say, I think going back to this woman, her kids are a bit older, but now let's take a case of a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. I go in, I'm diagnosed with a terminal illness, and I'm mothering these children or fathering these children who are 10 and 12. I'll come back home and I'll say to them, I went to the doctor today and the doctor thinks I have some sickness. And I would say to my children, if I really want to share but not bombard them, I will say to my children, in 6 months, we're going to find out the name of the sickness. Remember, I'm sharing partial information. I'm not withholding. So my children will hope that in 6 months, I'll tell them. They might forget, they might not forget. I'll come back to them and I'll say to them, it has been diagnosed. This is the sickness, but we're not yet certain. Mom, when are we going to be certain? I'll tell them in 3 months, in 2 months, in 1 month. Again, depending on whether they even understand what that is or not. Because some children don't even understand it. You have to put them through and teach them. But the bottom line is give them messages, release the messages bit by bit. Don't overload them. Take them, if it's something where you're going for therapy, take them with you, even if they're not allowed inside, so that they see you at that weakness when you get out and you talk to them through what it is. Life is no longer, we're no longer raising ignorant children. These children often know more than we do. And sometimes your child can help you. Sometimes your child can keep you hoping because they know, and then they now understand what positive words to use for you. They now understand how motivational to get towards you, and then you hold on to that thread that your child is giving you for survival.
And as you rightly say, it's age appropriate. Let's look at a different scenario. Let's look at a dysfunctional family, whatever the reasons for the dysfunction might be. Communication does break down terribly in those type of families. And certain people are very, very difficult to connect with and to communicate with.
Yeah.
What would you say is the starting point? Because they have very, the conversations that happen there are very superficial.
Yes.
They don't go deep down. They don't, ask the hows, the whys. How are you feeling? What can I do? Because if they ask those questions, they're afraid that that family member may take them into an area that they're not prepared to deal with at that point in time.
Auntie Julia, I'm a very difficult communicator myself. I'm a very difficult person in talking to. And one of the reasons is because you just come to understand that people don't hear you when you talk. I mean, in my family, you know, people don't hear you. So for dysfunctional families, you might see somebody and think that that person is a difficult communicator, but that person is actually suffering from the fact that when they talk, no one listens to them.
And hold that thought. We're going to pick up on this very important point right after the break. My guest is an author. She's a coach. She's written 8 books. She's here to share family communication with us, and we do hope you're going to pick up some very valuable tips throughout the show. We have one more segment left, so listen very closely. Welcome back, and in the final segment today on Perspective, we're going to unpack the difficulties of navigating around family communication. And we all know we have someone in our families, a couple of people in our families that we find it very difficult to communicate with, and that of course is due to various reasons. Your thoughts around that, Victorine? And I think a lot of times, not only the issue of respect, but the fear of what opening up a conversation with that particular person is going to bring. And are you ready for what they're going to share with you? And are you going to be able to assist them? Are you able to guide them? Or are you able to take on what they're going to share with you?
Auntie Julia, you know that I find two very, I don't like to talk and throw too many points because they dilute the fact. So I always like to hold on to 2 or 3, you know. And I found 2 very important points that people have to know when they are, before they qualify somebody a difficult communicator, you know, or an ignorant communicator. The first thing is that sometimes people get frustrated with family members because family members, like you say, have already qualified them, so do not listen to them when they talk. They listen to meanings in things that they say. There is something that I put on my status yesterday, I think, that says, do not mingle with people outside your IQ level, because you are going to keep explaining yourself to them. Sometimes we have people in our families who are extremely ahead of us, and those people don't know to communicate with us because we keep pulling them back. And the same thing, people who are extremely behind, but we expect them to be ahead. So before you qualify somebody, look in your own self and ask yourself, what in me makes this person a difficult communicator? And then look at the person and say, is the person like that to everyone? Or is the person just like that in the family? Because you would see there are some people who are wonderful fathers but bad husbands, wonderful husbands but bad fathers. Those are the aspects. They have not had the introspection, or they have not been given the introspection. Those are ignorant things that happen in our life. But unless you sit down or somebody tells you, you will not understand. So again, for communication, go to that person and tell the person, I have been unable to talk to you because every time I talk to you, you already have a response or an assumption. Break those barriers, like I said in my earlier statement. And then the second thing is that we ourselves don't like to hear truths about us. So we don't like straight talkers. We don't like people in our families who would tell us exactly the way it is. So we now qualify those people to be difficult or to not listen to us because they are giving us responses out of what we wanted to hear, you know. So again, introspect in yourself before you qualify that person a difficult communicator. Are you not the problem?
Because you don't want to hear what they're going to say?
Because you don't want the honest truth. So 2 things. You don't want to fix them, or you're not at the same at the same level of communication, and you don't want to accept that. And then the other thing is that you are afraid and rejecting what they say, the truth that they say. So most people who are disliked in families in terms of communication are straight talkers. Most of them.
Can you break down those barriers? Can you tell the person, I'm afraid of what I'm going to hear, and that is why I don't interact with you or communicate with you on a regular basis, because I'm afraid of where you're going to take me with the conversation. Or, like most of us do, we avoid the person, we avoid engaging with the person, and we live in our own little bubbles.
My quickest response will say it depends on you, right? It depends on whether you want to build a family based on good communication or you want to stay like that. If you decide to build a family based on good communication, you have to address those barriers. Barriers are rules that people have put in place, and rules can be broken. And when rules are broken, one or two things happen. You either make peace or you fight, right?
What about the autocratic partner who kind of talks down at the partner all of the time or shouts, and his or her communication style is, and that's where the comment you made earlier on respect. They just kind of talk down at the person all the time, and that then leads to a total shutdown of communication, and you only engage on the very necessary information that you need to share.
I read a very beautiful book. You're asking this question, I'm trying to come up with the title. I can't remember. I think the title is As a Man Thinketh. As a Man Thinketh. Please, everybody listening to this, go read that book. This guy says, if you are a slave, you cannot blame the slave master for enslaving you all the time.
Oh.
You have to take responsibility for the role that you played in becoming that slave. So if you have an autocratic partner, what did you do for him to become so autocratic that you cannot break the barrier? Reflect again in yourself. Think about what you should have done. If you haven't done it, after listening to this, go now and do it. And that doing is basically a communication. You don't need to shout back. You don't need to be condescending to that person. All you do is you go into consistent communication until they accept it, that is what they are doing wrong. Consistently reminding them, because like I said again, most of these things are embedded in us by culture and religion. So we don't even notice. We don't even notice it. We only notice it when we start coming out. I worked with a couple where the woman was cheating on the man. And I had a conversation with another person about it. And that person and I, when we were talking, I said to that person, this woman who is now cheating on the husband because the husband is not so nice to her, only came to realize that the husband is not nice because she started looking at a partner. Otherwise, she had been in this marriage for 18 years and she was happy. But the day another man spoke to her, she now said, this guy is a villain. So it doesn't work like that.
She should have communicated.
She should have started by fixing this.
Right.
If you don't fix it, then you yourself, you are a signatory to that, especially for adults. For children, it is a bit tolerable because children do not know the difference yet. That's why they also study. That's why we also teach them, because they come to replicate the things that we teach them.
Absolutely. How important then, to wrap up, is respectful communication, even with an autocratic partner, and I'm sure people are afraid to then engage, but what would be perhaps the two or three important points to remember when you're trying to break down the barriers and have that beautiful relationship get it started on respectful communication?
Thank you. The first thing I would always say is to be natural. Be natural. Never fake who you are. People sometimes see us as being fake, and they treat us fakely as well. You know, that is the first thing. The second thing is maintain your tone, but constantly remind them that you don't appreciate of theirs. You know, constantly talk to them about it. Constantly do that and constantly do that. And lastly, make sure that you remind them that you had told them before when it gets overbearing. You said to them, last week I had told you I don't like the way you talk to me, or I don't like the tone you use, or I don't like the words, your choice of words when you talk to me about my cooking. You know, and then if they keep doing that, you ask them, how about you rephrase it and say this? You then start suggesting to them. You know, eventually it will sink in. In communication, there's a theory of repeated exposure. They say when you repeatedly expose somebody to something, that person starts to a lie. That person starts believing that lie. So once you repeatedly show a bad person good habit, they eventually become good. I usually have an example of a manager that I had in my office, Edward. He died last month, may his soul rest in peace, was a very gentleman, and I was very aggressive in my workplace. But this guy brought me to my level, you know, to the level of of empathy, because he never ever, even when he was wrong, made me feel like he knows that he's wrong. He always made me feel like he has done it, but he's sorry. He apologized for every single thing. I would tell you, this guy never got a written warning from me, which was very strange. He got the softest part of me, which was very strange, you know, and I always use him as an example to tell people that I was a villain, you know, excuse my choice of word, but this guy brought me to the level of humility. And until today, I still have that, because I remember he never told me I was wrong. He never told me to change, but his attitude towards me each time I spoke to him actually made me realize that he was a human being as well.
So, Victorine, let's then wrap up by this thought. If we have dysfunctional families or miscommunication in broken families, dysfunctional families, or disrespectful communication, and despite the reminders that you give to the people, if they still carry on in their own way, you've got to be persistent in your respectful way of interacting with them. And over time, you are saying that that will pay off.
It could. It could. If not, you come to a coach. You get a coach. You get me. You get anyone, you know. But in the long run, people come to the realization that they are not doing the right thing when you tell them over and over. But when we withdraw, they don't know the difference. So it's actually a sin if you know something, a crime, I don't know, if you know something and refuse to teach somebody. So teach people the things you know so that they too can be better. Because most often, 90% of people operate on ignorance.
And that's where we leave it. Your final words, so that we can take away regarding family communication, respectful family communication.
Yeah, effective family communication is only gained in a situation where all parties are willing to build a family. So always make sure that you first of all bring yourself to a situation where you're willing to have this as a family before you can even focus on any other levels around that. Thank you.
And that's where we leave it. And aren't we all guilty of that? And we always blame the opposite party of misunderstanding you, misquoting you, misrepresenting what you've said. So we need to look within ourselves and see what we are doing wrong to get the type of responses in our conversations with our family members. Let's take a step back and let's keep the one word foremost on mind, and that is respectful communication. Thank you for watching. Till the next time, as always, Assalamu alaikum.